What is up, people? It is MewMonster58. Welcome back to another video, and today is going to be a video that I absolutely should have released like a couple of weeks ago, if not last week, because today I believe the video that the date's going to be releasing is January 6th, 2026, and so I do wish you all a happy new year, and I hope you had a good holiday season. Obviously back on the grind now, which is a bit, unfortunate, but at the end of the day, we gotta lock in, right? And so I know this video should have been released probably like the week of Christmas, but I honestly just forgot that this is a video I wanted to make, and I got reminded like on Christmas Day that, hey, this is a video that I probably should make. And so today is going to be a video discussing the top 10 best figures that I reviewed in 2025. And again, just like last year, I will keep trying to make this video as long as I'm still able to do YouTube and stuff like that, and see how far this goes along. And so, when it comes to this video, first things first, all of the figures, including the honorable mentions, all of those figures and their reviews will be linked in the description below. Now, when it comes to this, do not click the description if you do not wish to be spoiled. I pushed it down further in the description just like I did last year, just so you guys wouldn't immediately get spoiled, but just know that all of the reviews for all of the individual figures that will be mentioned today, even the honorable mentions, will all be linked in the description below. Now, when it comes to the criteria of this, I will say the criteria is odd because it's going to include my biases. So, for example, even though objectively a figure may be better, which I'm absolutely taking into account, until I'd say there's an objectively worse figure close to the top of the list comparison to a figure that's closer to the bottom of the list, it's more than likely my personal biases have had an influence on that. And so I just want to make that a disclaimer. This isn't necessarily objectively the best figures that I've reviewed this year. The best that I've reviewed from a multitude of things, from my biases to the objectivity of how good the actual figure is, the price, how much I enjoy messing around with it, all that stuff. So just wanted to throw out that disclaimer. In addition to that, the last year's list will also be linked in the description below that video if you wish to take a look at last year's list that I also made. And so again, I really hope to continue making these, but without further ado, let's stop rambling and get right into the list. Alrighty, folks, at number 10, we have the SH Monsterarts Dark Magician from Yu-Gi-Oh! Now, the reason this is lower on the list is mainly due to the fact that this figure, unfortunately, sometimes just feels a little too frail for my liking. It feels a little too thin in certain places. Now, I understand that it's obviously a humanoid character, and if you look at the character itself as Dark Magician, Yu-Gi-Moto's signature monster, he is pretty skinny, right, as a character. But at the end of the day, that doesn't help the figure in that sense, and so there's parts where he can't, he feels a little bit thinner than I'd like him to feel. In addition to that, he can't really support his own weight in poses unless you actually have the stand that comes with him. That's what you really need to use. But what's nice about him, he's very well painted, very nicely articulated, and comes with a nice slew of accessories. He comes with his dark magic attack, comes with his awesome looking staff, which unfortunately I was an idiot and I broke it. In addition to that, it also comes with that big ring that's around him in his card, so you can recreate the actual card pose itself. And because of that articulation, you're honestly able to recreate that pose pretty much one-to-one. He just comes with a nice amount of stuff. Now, sure, he is a bit expensive, but at the end of the day, considering the amount of accessories that he comes with for this release and all the detail and the paint and the articulation, I think it's a really solid figure. But the reason it's towards the bottom is because even though I do really like this figure, I do like all of the other ones more. Alrighty, folks, at number 9, we have the SH Monsterarts Godzilla from the 1995 film Godzilla vs. Destoroyah, and specifically the 70th anniversary special version. Now, this is supposed to represent Godzilla's part in the movie where he becomes Burning Godzilla, obviously the most iconic part of the movie when he fights the big bad Destoroyah, and this figure is obviously supposed to pair along with the I think this is going to be the third re-release of the SH Monsterarts Destoroyah from that very same film. And so when it comes to this, I'm really excited because I would like to pick up that Destoroyah, even though I have the Super 7 one. I just want to see if the size is better, especially for my shelf, because it's going to be a bit smaller. But when it comes to this Godzilla release, what's really nice about it is the sculpt, the paint, the articulation's pretty solid. Even though the tail could be a little more articulated, it doesn't bend as much as I'd like to. But it does look very nice. Like, the whole figure looks really, really nice. And when it comes to SH Monsterarts Godzilla releases, anyone who's bought a ton of their products over the past few years can also agree that when it comes to the Godzilla releases in particular, unfortunately, a lot of them just don't come with accessories besides swappable hands. And so this one comes with a red spiral beam effect part. It also comes with just a red beam effect part. Comes with like a red spiral beam like foot part, and also comes with a stand, and that's really, really nice. You get a lot of nice stuff with this guy, and so for me, even though he is quite a little bit expensive, he does come with a nice slew of accessories to help justify that price, especially when you're comparing it to other SH Monsters Monster Arts releases, which is why it's towards the bottom of the list. Despite the fact that it does come with a nice slew of things, you do wish that there still was maybe a teeny bit more effort in general with the general releases of SH Monster Arts, but this is still a really good release, and it's definitely on my shelf right now, and I really do like this figure. Next, at number 8, we have the Transformers Age of the Primes Leader Class Onyx Prime, our first Transformer and the one lowest on the list. And I'll be honest with you, the reason he's on the list, period, is because of his shelf presence. This guy is huge, really accentuates that old Leader Class size. In addition to that, what I really like about him is all of his forms. His robot mode looks really, really good. His Griffin style mode also looks really, really good. In addition, a Centaur mode with a bow and arrow accessory, like, that's kind of unheard of in a Transformer as of recent. Like, it's really, really cool. I don't remember there being a Transformer, at least as of recently, that had a bow and arrow as an accessory that you could use. And so that's really, really cool. I also really like the paint and the detail. Everything looks really, really good. And again, because of those wings, he just has this, kind of like a peacock when it's, male peacock when it's, fanning its feathers out. It just has this presence about him. And he looks really, really awesome and regal, the first Beast Transformer. The reason he's lower and the lowest Transformer on this list is because of the functionality of his sort of horse-style legs. I'm not the biggest fan of them. Unfortunately, the way that they are, even though that you can still get some really nice poses out of them, sometimes if you don't have them locked in certain places, they just kind of likes to fall over because he is pretty heavy at the top when you look at all the wings and all of his, very broad shoulders, everything like that. He's pretty top heavy, and so if you don't have those legs sometimes just right, he tends to topple over. Not to say that he's super loose or anything like that, but if you don't have those legs right, that's my most frustrating thing about him. So overall, though, really, really amazing figure. I absolutely love this guy. Again, it's just those legs sometimes give me a little bit of an irk more than I'd like to enjoy. Alrighty, folks, at number 7, we have the Transformers Age of the Primes Superion, and we're going to group the whole thing here. The reason Superion is kind of low on this list, closer to the middle, is mainly due to the fact that he's very samey. Now, this also just goes back to the fact that in the G1 cartoon, Superion ends up looking pretty samey with the design. The reason I'm saying samey, like in terms of it's very one-dimensional, very similar colors, everything like that, you're comparing him to Menasor. Menasor is very unique because all the individual characters are very unique in terms of their designs. Dead End was a Porsche 928, Dragstrip was this dragster car, Breakdown was a Lamborghini Countach. I can't exactly remember what Wild Rider was supposed to be, but obviously Motormaster is a big semi. So when you put them all together, there's a lot of uniqueness, right? You have a yellow arm, you have a red arm, you have a white leg, you have a black leg, right? And then you have this purple and black center, right? With this purple-black head. At the end of the day, there's much more uniqueness with Motormaster. Now with Superion, what you get is that very uniform, very nice look, right? Very just uniform, all very similar colors, everything like that. The issue I have is the same thing. Unfortunately, because of that, even though Silverbolt himself was an amazing figure in and of himself, Fireflight and Skydive were just remolds, retools, and repaints of the first two releases, which were Slingshot and Air Raid. And even though I don't necessarily mind that in the sense of making the entire combiner feel very cohesive, at the end of the day, it does make each of the individual figures feel just that less special, right? Like, they don't feel like they're individual characters and figures, and there's obviously some complications with that, but at the end of the day, Superion himself is really, really good. He's very well articulated. He feels really solid, especially comparing to the Power of the Primes of the Combiner Wars one. Like, they just do not feel this good, right? The Combiner Wars Superion kind of falls apart, doesn't articulate very well, doesn't like to stand very well. This guy, on the other hand, does all those things beautifully. The paint's really nice. He comes with this iconic gun, and the head sculpt also looks really, really good. So overall, when it comes to Superion, even though I do think he's the inferior Combiner that was released this year, he's still a really, really good release, and I really am happy to have a Superion in my collection that will hopefully last a very long time. Alrighty, at number 6, guys, we have the Transformers Studio Series, Transformers 1, Voyager Class Sentinel Prime. The reason this guy is here is because it's just good. It's just really cool. The reason it's sort of towards the bottom is because it's just not my favorite. But at the end of the day, what this figure does really well is pretty much everything. The only major issue I have with this figure is the fact that his shield doesn't like to store very well in his vehicle mode. I've found it many times when messing around with him, especially before the review, where I would try and peg in the shield, and if you don't have those little wings folded out perfectly on the side, sides, it would kind of just fall off if you like turned them upside down. And so there was no like super secure locking mechanism for that. But what's really good about him, he represents his on-screen character beautifully, both in his jet mode, the Cybertronian jet mode, as well as his robot mode. The transformation is also pretty fun. It's not frustrating at all. In addition to that, I love the integration of that super mode, the thing that he has in the movie, into the actual toy. It gives him like a neck joint too for extra articulation. But the fact that they implemented that and they were able to still give it to us like this is really, really cool. In addition to that, I really like how just solid he feels. The articulation's good, the paint's good, the accessories are really nice, but he feels really good to handle. Like the plastic feels thick, it feels quality. Overall, I'm just a really big fan of this figure. It's just not my personal favorite, which is why it's lower on the list. Alrighty folks, smack dab at number 5, right in the middle of the list, we have Hayatoy Shimo that was released this year. I really, really like this figure, and the major reason it's here is because of the value that you get out of this figure. What I really like about this figure, despite the fact that it doesn't come with anything, which is my biggest gripe with the figure, it is simply awesome for the price point. What you get is you get this, like Shimo in the movie obviously was this very pure white character, but there were many scenes where, you know, she was in like the volcano area or she was in other places, especially when you consider that she was fighting a very pink Godzilla. At the end of the day, she has like this pink pearlescent sort of hue to her at certain lights. It's kind of like those certain wraps you'll see on cars like this. I'll throw a picture of this McLaren P1 on screen. You know, when you have like, you're looking at this at different angles, you get these different colors and stuff like that. Kind of like the colors of that, I forget the Mustang that was, you know, that like the Cobra body Mustang that was released. They have like that you know, very like color changing paint, very similar to Midnight Purple for a Nissan Skyline R34 GTR. It's like, when you're looking at her from different angles and certain lights, you get this pink pearlescent, you get a little bit of red, a little bit of yellow. Like, it's really cool that she's just not this pure white. In addition to that, I do like how the spikes are painted. I really like how those look on her back as well. In addition to that, I think she's very well articulated for her body style of being a monster, being a creature. She looks really, really good. And again, my only biggest gripe with this figure is the fact that she doesn't come with anything. The value, however, is where this thing absolutely excels. The SH Monster Arts equivalent is around $240. And in my opinion, it's inferior. This figure, on the other hand, $70. Absolute steal for this figure, and highly recommend it because it's just a better representation of the character in the movie. Like, I just really, really like how this figure turned out, and Hai is absolutely smashing it out of the park because guess what? This isn't the last you're seeing of Hai on this list. At number 4, guys, we're almost cracking the top 3. At number 4, we have the Transformers Age of the Primes Leader Class Megatronus the Fallen. Now, I apologize in the actual Megatronus review. I did get a lot of things wrong with that, so the guy who definitely called me out for that, I totally understand it. I was absolutely wrong there. I got the backstory wrong. So now I've done my fair bit of due diligence and research. I understand where Megatronus comes from, so I apologize to that guy and to anyone who was misled by me in that review. But regardless, when it comes to Megatronus, what I like, very similar to Onyx, he's got this big presence to him. I like him because he's got this huge size, very indicative of the first leader class Transformers, you know, this really nice size. But what I like about him a lot more over Onyx Prime is he just feels a little more cohesive. He feels a little more put together. I love the accessories with all the flames that you get. His big, was it the cannon? I forget what it's called off the top of my head, his artifact, right? One of the most powerful Cybertronian artifacts, you know, of the 13 Primes, that he unfortunately uses to kill Solus Prime. But regardless, it looks really good. All the paint's really done. The black, the purple, the sort of gunmetal gray, the yellow helps definitely contrast all these dark colors. The yellow for his eyes, you know, and then when you have all those flames on him, it looks even cooler. The transformation is pretty intuitive. It can get a little frustrating sometimes lining up some panels, but other than that, it's really not that bad whatsoever. And finally, we get him into his tank mode. This is where my issue lies, is that there's certain aspects of him that feel a little bit looser than I'd like for him to be, like in his legs in particular. And so when you're trying to flatten the H-tank style tank that he is down, because of the way that the legs transform on the back, they don't exactly like to lay flat, and so sometimes you get like that wobble where, like, for example, if it's like a chair where there's like 3 legs that are the same length and then there's one leg that has like the foot shaven off of it, you know, in school, and then you like rock back and forth on it, like that's where you get Megatronus when you're trying to flatten down his tank mode, and sometimes it just doesn't work that way, and that's the most frustrating aspect. And plus, the actual tank barrel kind of sags because the cannon itself is so heavy. And those are my two biggest issues with it. But other than that, very well painted, fun transformation that can get sometimes a little frustrating, but not that bad. Really nice accessories. He comes with his like blading, comes with like that trident as well. Nice vehicle mode storage. He well painted, nice articulation. He just is really, really good all around. The reason he's not higher on the list is because the other three figures, I genuinely think that I just like them better. Alrighty guys, finally cracking the top 3. At number 3, we have the Transformers Studios Series 86 Devastator. I'm just putting Devastator as a whole because in my opinion, he's very much the better combiner that was released this year. What I really like about this figure is when you compare him to the Combiner Wars one, he has a more accurate color. In addition to that, he just feels way more put together, solid, and stable. That is one thing I really like. Oh, also in addition, the fact that he's a bit smaller does not bother me whatsoever. The fact of the matter is, he is larger than all the other figures that we've, all the, leader class, all that stuff. He's bigger than those figures, and he represents the character absolutely beautifully. The grossest thing about him is his backpack, but I'll tell you, in person, when you're seeing it on camera, it doesn't look all that great. But when you see the backpack in person, you're kind of like, it's not great, but it actually doesn't look that bad. The other gripe I have with him is that he's top heavy, and so if you don't have the feet and the supports for his feet sometimes just right, unfortunately sometimes he just tends to topple over. But other than that, well articulated, well painted, the plastic feels really good, he feels really stable, he doesn't fall apart when you shake him, if he were to maybe topple over or something like that, and he comes with his iconic gun. What I also love about him is that he is ever so slightly bigger than both Menasor as well as Superion, and this should be true because at the end of the day, guess what? He is made up of 6 Transformers instead of 5 of the other combiners. So of course, being Devastator and being made up of more Transformers, it does make sense that he's just a little bit bigger, by like half a headish or so taller, and that's perfectly fine by me. So really, really good if you're looking to get a combiner this year. Over Superion, gun to my head, yes, I would say pick up Devastator instead of Superion, although both options are perfectly awesome. But at the end of the day, I do really like Devastator. It's just that backpack and his stability that throw me off. Alrighty guys, at number 2, we have the Hiya Toys King Ghidorah from the 1991 film Godzilla vs. King Ghidorah. This figure is really kind of a left field throw into number 2, and the reason it's here is because of simplicity. If you guys have followed my channel for a long time, whether it's Let's Plays, whether it's Hot Wheels shorts, whether it's Transformers or figure reviews, you probably know at this point that I love simplicity. There's a beauty, in my opinion, in simplicity, and that is exactly what this figure has. The biggest gripe with this figure, I'll get out of the way, it doesn't come with any other extra accessories. But what this figure does, it does amazingly. This figure is incredibly well painted, incredibly well sculpted, represents the on-screen character that we saw in that movie absolutely amazingly, and in addition to that, despite being a 3-headed dragon with 2 tails, a pair of wings, and no arms, and just legs and some feet, at the end of the day, this guy is really well articulated. By far, this is the most articulated King Ghidorah figure that I currently own. The tails bend in a way I never expected King Ghidorah tails to bend. In addition to that, the heads are super well articulated, and they're so well painted and well sculpted, and that chest body area, the way that the scales, everything is just really, really good. The only thing that would have made this figure even better would have been lightning beam effect parts. Other than that, though, this is simply amazing. But the other part about this figure that also gets me is the value. The equivalent SH Monster Arts King Ghidorah from that 1991 film will run you almost $300. I think it's like $275. This guy, 110 after everything. The only thing I'll say about this figure, if you do decide to pick this guy up, is he is big. The box is huge and he is large. He is not small. So you need to clear up some room if you don't have any. So I would second guess it before buying it. I would definitely think about the space that you have, but at the end of the day, this is an absolutely amazing figure for the price point, especially when you're comparing it to the equivalent SH Monster Arts figure. It's just way better value, well painted, well sculpted, well articulated. Everything it does is very simple, but it's very beautiful in the way that it does it. Simply amazing figure. Alrighty guys, before we get into number one, we're going to do all of our honorable mentions that didn't quite make the list, even though I really wanted to put them on the list, but I will say they just didn't end up making the list. We'll sort of rapid fire through them. First off, the SH Figure Arts Nail. This figure is really good. Really well painted, and a nice slew of accessories, very well articulated as well. What I love is the Namekian, you know how the Namekians have, if you're a Dragon Ball fan, when you chop off a Namekian's limb, provided they have the energy, they can regenerate their limbs. And so there's a part in the Frieza, First Form Frieza fight where Nail's trying to stall for time, and Frieza rips off his forearm. And then Nail proceeds to grow it back, and you get an accessory that represents him growing that forearm and his hand back, and that's really, really cool. In addition to that, the faces that you get of him getting absolutely annihilated by Frieza are very well painted and very well sculpted, so you can recreate those scenes, and that's really cool to give you options for display. It's awesome. You also just get some nice accessories. You know, you can remove his gi or his vest or whatever you want to call it. You have to get a nice slew of hands. Overall, it's just really, really well done overall, and I really do like this figure. Unfortunately, I don't know, I just couldn't see it go on the list. There wasn't anything crazy about it that made me like, oh yeah, oh, right, that made me want to put it on the list, even though I was like, honestly, at number 10, it was between him and Dark Magician. It was very close, but he does not stay on the list. Next, SH Figure Arts, Daima, Goku, and Vegeta, not the mini versions. Very simple reason. Same thing as the Hiya Toys King Ghidorah. Simple, but they do everything that they do very nicely. And in fact, both of these figures have replaced my base form Goku and Vegeta on my main shelf because that they're just very well done. Very clean, very nice, like the bright colors. Everything is just well done about them. Articulation, paint, but they don't do anything super crazy, which is why they were left off the list. Next, the SH Monster Arts Elemental Hero Flame Wingman from Yu-Gi-Oh! The reason he didn't make the list is mainly his functionality. I had more frustrations with this guy in comparison to Dark Magician. The issue I had was the way that they made the stand for his wing, was really weird, and it just didn't ever work for me no matter how much I tried to follow the instructions. I just could not get that wing to sit very nicely on that stand that they gave him, but he looks amazing. Like, he just looks really good. The dragon had the asymmetry. He just looks absolutely fantastic when it comes to the looks. Even the articulation was well done. Comes with an extra set of hands. Comes with that flame effect part. He comes with the stand. Like, really, really nice overall. It's just that functionality with his wings in the stand that really threw me off and prevented me from putting him on this list. Another SH Monster Arts. SH Monster Arts Anguirus from the 1972 film Godzilla vs. Gigan. I've been waiting for an Anguirus figure. Purely the only reason that this didn't make the list is because he doesn't come with anything and he doesn't do anything special. But the major reason I was considering putting him on the list is because I've been waiting so long for Bandai to make an SH Monster Arts Anguirus from whatever film they decided to make him from. Whether it was Godzilla Ultima, whether it was one of the other older movies, I wanted an Anguirus because Anguirus and Godzilla are besties. I always thought that they were. And so at the end of the day, despite the fact that he doesn't come with anything, he's well sculpted, well painted, he looks really good. The other issue I have is that he can't turn into like a ball like an armadillo, but other than that, he is really, really nice. Just everything else, I just couldn't justify putting him on there, despite the fact that I really wanted to. And finally, guys, for the last two, we have two Transformers Age of the Primes Voyager class primes, Alpha Trion and Prima Prime. Both of them are just very well done. They're they have very nice vehicle mode storage. Their transformations are very fun and very, not like super intuitive, but they're pretty fun and not hard to get them in and out of robot mode. They're very fun to mess around with. Prima a little less so than Alpha Trion. But both are very well painted too, and they just represent their characters beautifully. The fact that they have very clean vehicle mode storage in and of itself is one of those things where it's like, man, that is super like rare in the world of Transformers. And both of their sizes and their plastic qualities feel really, really good. Overall, they're just well done. I just didn't see them over like Onyx or Megatronus or something like that. I really wanted to put one of them on there, but I just couldn't justify it. Alrighty, folks, and number one is very cliche, and I know there's going to be a lot of audible groans and stuff like that. You know, it's going to be like, oh, what a surprise, this is number one. But I'm sorry, guys, I have to put it up here. My number one favorite figure that I reviewed, number one best figure that I reviewed this year, in my opinion, is the Transformers Studio Series 86 Leader Class Megatron. Very similar to last year, my number one figure last year was the Commander class Studio Series 86 Optimus Prime, and here it's Megatron. The reason is partly because I've been waiting for this figure, but it's also the anticipation of the community. Ever since they, revealed and they released the SS86 Commander class Prime, it was no shock that they were going to release a Studio Series 86 Leader class Megatron to pair alongside of it, and so that they did that here. Obviously, the biggest controversy with this figure is the fact that he is not a Walter P38 handgun. And to those people, I say, kick rocks, man. I don't care. I don't think it matters. He was a handgun in one continuity out of the gazillion continuities that he's been a part of. In addition to that, the fact that he is a tank doesn't bother me, because when you look at the Transformers Devastation video game, he was also a tank in that. The only issue I do have with this figure mainly is the actual tank mode itself. It's not the fact that he is a tank, it's the fact of how it was executed. It kind of looks a bit funky at certain angles, and in addition to that, the actual tank barrel doesn't swivel from the center, and so when you start to swivel it further out, it looks really weird. But other than that, the tank mode is still well done beyond that. It just, again, looks funky, and the tank barrel doesn't swivel from the center, like the whole center part of it. But when you get into the rest of the figure, it's well painted. The transformation, even though it is not simple, it is very intuitive, very complex and unique, but not in an MP44 Optimus Prime, super frustrating, I'm going to break this figure in halfway. Very nice, and they did exactly what I thought that they should have done. When I was speculating on how they should implement the tank treads if they're going to make him a tank, I was like, well, why wouldn't they just put them in the legs? And that's exactly what they do. His tank treads end up becoming his legs, and they were also able to find a way to make his legs look like the handle of the handgun, which is really, really cool when you get him into his robot mode. And speaking of his robot mode, oh my freaking god. The only issue with this robot mode, in my opinion, there's two, actually. His shoulders could be a little bit bigger. In addition to that, his fusion cannon is ever so slightly smaller, in my opinion, than it should be. Just a tinge smaller. It just needed to be a little bit bigger and would have been perfect. But regardless, everything else is perfect. The proportions, the paint, the details, the articulation is out of this world. He just represents the biggest baddie we've seen in Transformers, right? The most iconic baddie in Transformers now has a proper figure to represent his G1 on-screen character beautifully, and by far, I'm not even joking, this is the best mainline Megatron that represents the G1 cartoon that we've ever seen, ever. It is simply an amazing figure that I highly recommend you pick up. I'm not going to lie to you, if I reviewed Soundwave this year, Soundwave would have been number 2. I'll tell you this right now. Soundwave is really cool. We'll obviously talk about it when we get into the review. Just a little tease there. The other thing that really made me this figure is going to be at number 1 this year is the size. As you know, I'm a stickler for scale. I've been very, lenient when it comes to, the combiners, because at the end of the day, making them their actual size compared to the figures is just going to be ridiculous and cumbersome and way too much money. When it comes to this guy's scale, Megatron canonically, in pretty much most, if not every single Transformers continuity, has always been bigger than Optimus Prime. And here, they did exactly what I wanted them to do. When you stand these two next to each other, Megatron is just ever so slightly bigger than Optimus Prime by maybe like half a head, and that's perfectly fine, and that's exactly the size I wanted between the two of them, and so that made me it sealed the deal for me on making this my number 1 figure that was released this year. So that I was able to review as well. So at the end of the day, out of the figures that I reviewed this year, my number 1 figure, the best figure that I reviewed, is the Transformers Studio Series 86 Leader Class Megatron, to the surprise of nobody. But regardless, I really hope you guys did enjoy this list once again. I hope you enjoy them in general, and I would love to hear your thoughts and your favorite figures and stuff in the comments below. If you enjoy some of the, if you share some of the same feelings with some of these figures as I do. And again, I'd love to hear your favorite figure that you got this year. As fellow collectors, it's really fun to foster that discussion. So would love to hear that in the comments below. But regardless, that's really it for the list. So I hope I continue to be able to make more of these for you guys. So I thank you guys so much for taking the time to watch this video. Please like, comment, rate, and subscribe, and share this video with your friends. Also, follow me on the socials. Those will be linked in the description below. And with that, guys, and once again, thank you so much for taking the time to watch this top 10 list, and I will catch you all in the next one. Hope you guys have a wonderful day. Peace.